Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, we'll hop to it. Hi, my name is Mark Gostkiewicz. I'm from Tri-Gable Lee Farm in Colchester, Connecticut. I teach a lot of homesteading classes, home and garden classes. Um, Teach them from the house here, and also at libraries and garden clubs and everything. It I can't remember if I came pre-COVID or during COVID as well, but I know I've
During
been
COVID
before.
and you did container gardening and it was faithless.
Yeah. Oh man, container gardening. That's a fun one. All right. So tonight, chickens. We got backyard chickens. It's funny. I, so my family with the farm that's like right down the road, not my farm, but like the old family farm and everything. One of their main sources of income was raising thousands and thousands of chickens. And my grandfather, one of the nephews and everything worked on the farm. My dad worked on the farm. They all worked in the coops, gathering eggs and everything. And by the time I moved here, and we built our house and everything, the coop had burnt down, and like that was no longer a thing. And so I never really grew up with that as an experience as a kid. But I wanted my kids to have that kind of experience. And so when my wife was pregnant with our daughter 12 years ago, 13, I guess, but 12 years ago, we got our first set of chicks. And we also started like the other parts of the market garden and everything that we do around here. So yeah, well, a lot of what I speak to and speak of is from my own experience. Also my experience of like helping other people. I build chicken coops as a side business. It's not an advertisement for like me to build your chicken coop. It's definitely less expensive for you to build your own. But in helping people set up theirs, in the early years of building coops, I didn't have all the records of like all the coops I built, but I was like kind of like doing the math in my head, and it's like, have I built over like 200 coops? And it's like I might have done a couple hundred coops, delivering them around the state. And so I've seen like so many setups. I've been to places where people have a winter storm that destroyed their coop setup and everything, and I built the coop in one day, brought it to them, set it up, and in an emergency, like got everything set up for them. And then also people who are like very well planned. They're like, well, we know that we're going to get chickens down the road, and it might be a year or whatever, but we know we need a coop first. So I've kind of dealt with a lot of different setups, a lot of different people. And so that's the kind of experience that we talk with here. It is backyard chicken keeping. So I'm going to do a little screen share. Feel free with Zoom to if seeing my face helps you in processing and everything, you can change the size of your screen and change the size of my face as well. What I do with all of my presentations is I do send a link to the presentation and a link to I gotta move my little menu here that's at the top here. Sorry. Sorry. And so the presentation itself and the handouts. So what you're seeing on your screen now is the handouts that go along with this. And we've got links, live links that are in this document that keep you going, and also links to actual products and everything, things that I enjoy, things that I've used and I've tested, and that have maybe not lasted 12 years, but have lasted 5 years or so. So when we talk about different feeders and waterers later, there's so many different kinds to choose. And that's going to be one of the things that we'll get to. But my point is that this will all be like available and emailed to you. Actually, maybe here. How about I stop screen sharing and I'll just put it in the chat so that it's here for you. Okay, so there's one. There's the link to.
I'll also email everybody.
Yeah. If we got anybody who's like a multimodal person who's going to like listen to me, but also like scan through stuff, there you go. Now you've got access to both links. All right. And now let's go back to the screen sharing. Yeah. So my presentation is slide based, and each slide kind of brings up a memory of something that I want to talk about. So yeah, I do have a website. If you're interested in other classes that I teach, and my full calendar's here. If you want to come out to the farm, we got classes here that we teach on the farm. I think next weekend is not this weekend, following weekend's the first one. All right, let's get into it, into the chickens. All right, so whoa, man, everything that we do here. All right, so yeah. All right, so we start off with just with like some pictures of my hens, and what you'll always see in my flock is some diversity. I'm going to end up talking about my friend John. He's my best friend, John Wojtowicz from Crosstown Farm, and him and his chickens that he gets, he always gets the same types of chickens, Rhode Island Reds, and that's because they're good layers for him, and he also processes them for meat after a couple years of laying. When they've stopped being ideal layers, he starts to process them. Us, we keep ours as well livestock, but also we love them. They're our pets, and so these girls, they're around for a while, and so we get them for their looks and everything. Here's a satellite view of my house. So right here we got Google. Actually there's a new little addition right here onto the house here, and the greenhouse is down while we're all right. Here's the thing I want to point out right here. That's where our chicken coop is. So this is my front door. That's where the coop is. And so okay. Okay, so here's my little chicken coop. Here's my garden, and I got my orchard, and you come down the driveway and everything. So what I want you to see is just like how close it is to the house. It's not like really far away. And this has been one of the great things. Even just last winter, not this winter, thank goodness, but last winter, I was asleep. My wife came up, and it was around 11 o'clock. She goes, hey, Mark, I hear something out in the coop. Something's happening. Because the coop is so close, she was able to hear that something was happening in the coop. And I went out to the coop, and a possum had gotten in, and it was dragging a chicken out by her legs. And I was able to get in there and get the possum out, and then also like kind of refigure out, well, how the heck did it get in and everything. And I found the part in the fence where it got out. I mended it at by midnight at night. And my point is the location of Coop. You'll also see that it's not right up against the house. So that's thanks to my wife. I wanted this thing like within like 20-30 feet of my house, just because I just wanted super easy access. And here's the thing, is that chicken coops are smelly. No matter what you do, they're going to be out there. It's going to be a smelly thing. The chickens poop all over the place. They poop all over in the coop. You don't want to walk in the coop, and they poop everywhere outside. So even with a big run and everything, when we get these times like in winter where it's like rainy mud season, it can be smelly over there. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's keep going, because every picture is supposed to bring up something. This is the history. So part of this is to share my story of like this is the coop that we built. So why it's 7 feet by 7 feet. Now why? Because lumber comes in 8-foot dimensions. And if you make everything slightly less than 8 feet, then you're working with 8-foot pieces, and you don't need to buy anything bigger than 8 feet. It's on blocks. Now, here's the thing, is that like, you're going to hear me talk a little later about rats and everything. And rats have become a problem this past couple years, but I've also finally found a solution that stopped the problem. Having this coop so close to the ground has created a spot where rats created a nest underneath it. Honestly, I went the rat trap route and killed about 27 rats with the traps, and it still wasn't keeping up with the birth rate. And eventually one round of poison was all it took. And then I ended up digging out the nest with the dead rats and everything. My point with this is that as you're seeing this worked for 11 years. This worked for 11 years being that low to the ground. However, in hindsight, I think I would have, I would build it up now, maybe a couple feet off the ground, so that we don't have that opportunity for nesting stuff to happen underneath the coop. And if you see all the coops that I built for my actual customers, they're all built 2 feet off the ground later on. All right, let's keep going. So I initially, my first years having chickens, I initially would open and close the door every day, and I had them free roaming, free ranging in our whole yard, and that worked for about 2 months. And then what happened was the neighbor's dog got out, and about half of our flock died in one day. And I was like, all right, and I also did the moving them around thing, and but fencing really is something that you got to do, whether it's a neighbor's dog or a coyote or a raccoon. or a bobcat or a fisher cat, or you're going to find out what your predators are in your area when you bring chickens to your yard, because they invite predators. It's not their fault. They have a smell and things are attracted to them. Hawks is another one. Hawks are not a problem for me, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Chickens need shade. So as time has gone on, I made these little shade structures for my chickens, made out of recycled metal, reclaimed metal from chicken coops that my grandfather built down the road that were all rotted out, but the metal was still fine. Chickens in the summer, they get hot. They need some shade. So if you got tree cover, great. I don't have tree cover. And that's why I don't have a hawk problem, is because for 100 feet in each direction, there are no trees. And that means there's no place for a hawk to hide up in the trees and the limbs. And so if I put the coop closer to the tree line, I would actually have to then put netting over the top of the run so that a hawk can't get in there. And I'm realizing that some vocab, two housing vocabs, and that is the coop itself and the run, the coop and the run, the coop and the run, the coop and the run. Your chickens need both. They need a place that's secure for them to, and protects them from the elements to sleep at night. And they need a big open space so that during the day they can get out and be themselves. This is what my chicken coop looked like this spring. So now you see that I've started to plant my orchard trees around this coop area, which gives them some shade when the leaves are in. So now, I planted some here. This is our south side right here. And these trees are planted right on the south side, shading my chicken coop area throughout most of the day. And then those shade structures are there. I got a beehive here. And here's what I want you to see is the bucket, and look at this little platform. These are tiny little hacks that I want you to pick up on. I got a little egg door and I got a people door. Okay, so, sorry. Oh, my wife's home. I hear the garage door and I'm like, what the heck is that? Anyway, okay, but I want you to see some things. Yes, I have glass on the window. Your coop does not. I have a window on my coop. I have glass there. That's just because I happen to have a sliding glass door that I turn on its side and use as a giant window. Your chicken coop does not need to have any windows. It does need ventilation. Again, we'll talk about that, but it doesn't need light because they tend to go in and they tend to go up, and they tend to have enough light during the day coming in through their little scuttle hole, like this, where they can go in and out. Okay. This bucket right there, that's where I keep my feed. Easy access. I can put a couple bags of feed in there. And the platform, you step up to this coop every single day. And if you're doing that, what's going to happen is your feet are going to wear down the grass and you're just going to have muddy feet every time. And so now I just change the path that I walk up to the coop. I step on the platform. I check on the feed and the water, which is right on the inside. And then I get their eggs every day. That's the every day. Every day when I come home from school, I check on them. And this is the delight of the spring, is merging two flocks. So we have some younger hens, some younger chicks that we got last spring. We got 12. One of them passed away the first day that we had it. So, so we really got 11. And socially introducing what you're seeing here is me introducing in this open grassy area my new chicks to the established flock that was there. And the established flock was about, I think it was about 12. Yeah, it was about 12 hens and a rooster. And I was bringing in another 11 there. So that this coop is a good size coop, and it can hold about 24 chickens comfortably. Ideally I like to keep it around 12 to 18, so as chickens come and go. Now, so here's one of the funny things. So we got so many pictures in this slideshow to talk about, but one of the things I've kept a little record of all the chickens that we've had over the years. And oh man, the dog is not going to want to be in here with me. Give me 1 second. Hey, come on. Let's go see the family. Go see. Okay, there we go. Indigo would just keep whining. Okay, anyway, I kept a record of all the chicken, breeds that we got and how many we got over the years. So yeah, so from 2011, that was the first year, into 2023. So that's 12 years. So now we're on our 13th spring, but I'm still always going to keep 12 in my mind because that's my daughter's age. That's my benchmark. Anyway, I did the math right before this meeting, and we have 18 now. Over the course of all the years, we have had 67 of them. That means some of them come and go and they die. I then did the math and I did, okay, 67 minus the 18 that are alive. How many have passed away in the years? And I divided that by the 11, 12 years, and it's about 4 or 5 of them die a year. And my average of taking the 67 dividing by that, my average over all of these years is about 5 chickens a year. Now, does that mean we're really getting 5 chickens a year? No. Most of the time, the smallest number of chickens that you can get is a half dozen, 6. In some places, you have to get a full dozen or a full 10 or so. And so that's kind of one thing to know, is that, well, can you just have 3 or 2 or whatever? And it's like, well, they're social. They do like to be together. And you're probably not likely to actually get 2 or 3. And plus you're going to lose some along the way. What happens when you lose some? It's, they're going to live a while. So even though we've had so many chickens over the years, when you get to a natural rate of attrition and you're not losing some due to predators, in the early years I did, neighbor's dog, other predators getting their ways in and everything, they can live. I think the oldest was like 8 years old, that we had, and she definitely wasn't laying any eggs. By the time she was that old. I just lost there's my presentation. Okay, good. So yeah, so let's keep going. So this was the chicks when I first put them in the coop. The very first night I put them in the coop with all the other hens. Now the other hens are up in the top of the coop, way up top, roosting. And these girls stayed on the floor and they would not go up to the roost. Why? Well, because they were not the dominant group, but they all huddled together, all 11 of them there. You can start counting heads and everything. All 11 of them were there. And I want you to notice the stage that they're at by the time I'm moving them outside. They are fully feathered, no downy feathers at all by the time that they get moved outside. Now every chicken sleeps up in the roost. None of them are on the floor. It took them time to get acclimated to the rest of the coop. And there we go. We got our grapevines going along the fence line, and the chickens are just all hanging out. And this is them all grown up, a mixed flock of the young and the old. Okay, so things that you should definitely just know. It is wherever you're located, you should know your local ordinances. Find out if you need to have a permit. Find out if you need to register your chicken coop. Now, I think the state of Connecticut has an optional registration. You can register your chickens as in a, let's see, what is it? So you can register them, and it's like why would you register if you don't have to? Well, part of it might be if there was like an outbreak of avian flu in the area or something, you would be notified because you're now on that list. Or if something were to happen with your birds and they're sick, you have an easy connection and everything. Honestly, mine aren't registered because I don't have to. So, and I don't have to have a permit where I am in my town. But there are some rules for setbacks. A setback is how close can that coop be from the main road? It's typically about 100 feet. And how far can it be from the property line? Typically about 20 feet. I've been to some urban areas where I know the setbacks exist, but the people are still putting the coops right on the fence line. And so they may get caught. If they have neighbors that don't want chickens right up against the fence line, they may have to move their coop. But if they're maybe giving away the eggs and they're being nice with their neighbors, then maybe their chickens are seen as an asset. So just kind of, if you're getting chickens, you should definitely let your neighbors know, kind of feel it out. And, There may be flock limits. So I know in some of the urban areas, like you might be only able to have 6 chickens. There might be breed restrictions. Now they're not chickens, but there's definitely in sometimes breed restrictions against guinea fowl, because guinea hens, which are not chickens, they're different breeds altogether. They tend to get out and do what they want and go into other people's yards and on top of people's roofs and on top of people's cars. And that's why they can be a problem. Restrictions, typically on roosters, that's a very common thing again in urban areas. So the only thing is just don't do the thing of ask for permission. You should ask first. You should do your research. Okay, my beautiful chickens again. Looking at this, what do we got? We got a Plymouth Barred Rock. We have a silver laced Wyandotte, and this is good that this is being recorded. If you're like, "Ooh, what was that chicken?" You can come back in the recording. You can listen to it again. This is a speckled Sussex. I love these guys. They're so docile and they're pretty. We're gonna get a couple more this year. What I will say, this silver laced Wyandotte is a beautiful bird, beautiful bird. But I found, even though the Wyandottes are known for being what's the word, docile, I found that they'd been very skittish, which can be good if you want birds that can get away from predators. But if this chicken, when these hens get out, it is so hard for me to get them back in the run and everything. We're running, sometimes run around. So we have some Rhode Island Reds, another Plymouth Rock. Now there's 2 birds here. I want you to see this dark one and this gray one. Those are Orcanas. No, not Orcana. Yeah, they're like an olive egger, Easter egger type of chicken, and the plumage on them is always different. You always get different colors, but they lay like these greeny, bluey olive eggs. Okay, so there's going to be like so many different. This is the fun part. Like there's so many fun things with chickens, and one of them is choosing where are you going to get chicks and where are you going to, how are you going to take care of them and everything. Now I know, so we have a store locally called Mackey's, and that's one. There's one here in Colchester, and I know there's another one up in Woodstock, Connecticut, one in Wyndham. They're so here's the thing. Look around. Tractor Supply tends to be a place where you can get chickens. However, we're going to talk about they may not be the best place to get chickens. Look around and find out which places are taking orders on chickens now. Now, I know I've got until I think the first week of February to get my chicken order in. My wife and I have already gone online through Mackey's to see which ones they're offering. And we kind of have our cart set up of which chickens we're going to buy for this year. But think about the purpose. So purpose is, do you care about, there's so many different purposes. You could even be somebody who's like, I want to show mine in the county fair, and that's fine. So maybe you're going to get a rare breed and hope that it's like feathers are all prim and proper and that you win awards and everything. But maybe like most of us, you're in it for the eggs. You're in it for like those amazing eggs for cooking, baking, everything. And so egg laying, that tends to be something. Are you interested in processing the birds for meat? So there are multi-purpose birds, meaning birds that get up to a certain weight and maintain that weight as they lay eggs. But then after a couple of years, you slaughter them and bring in new chicks into your thing. That's a model that my friend John Wojtowicz goes with. Me, I don't. I do have multi-purpose birds, but they're all here for egg laying. And then there are some birds that are just raised for meat, and those are called broilers. So if you see that something is a broiler, well, that means that it's probably not a good egg layer because it has been bred to have a lot of meat on its bones and to make it to its to its harvestable weight. Look at all these words we got: harvest them instead of slaughter them, and process them instead of clean its guts out and everything. But the point is that if you're game for this, think about your purpose, quantity. Okay, definitely. I think there's we all know the chicken keepers who they're going to get a certain number of chickens, they're going to push their coop to the max, and then they're going to get more. That is a problem. What's going to happen is that you're going to have behavior issues that you never would get. The behavior issues of chickens completely plucking the feathers out of another chicken is a behavior issue of a crowded run, a crowded coop. All right. And so you see these problems that people have, and it's because the less dominant hen can't get away because there's not enough room. She gets cornered, she gets the feathers plucked out of her, and that's it. And then it becomes a problem. And then you have chickens eating other chickens' eggs. That's again another like this weird behavior issue where that can happen when you have overcrowding. Let's keep going though. Breeds. All right. So honestly, my eggs are starting to look like this. The one color I don't have is white. Because I have a variety of different types of birds. When I get my eggs now, my winter ones, my blue egg layers have not kicked into gear yet. They are in winter dormancy. But my olive eggers, my chocolate marron, my cocoa marron, and my all of my little tan and buff colored egg layers, they are laying eggs. And it's funny, I just don't have a white egg layer. I think I am going to work in a white egg layer this year though, just so that we can have that in the mix. You can find charts like this, and as you're reading up on your chicken breeds and everything, you'll find different ways to compare them and everything. One thing I would say is like, definitely as a backyard person, look for the words of like docile and family friendly and stuff like that. That means that it's going to be a chick that bonds with you and that learns that you're its caretaker. And yeah, so there's lots of like little infographics and stuff like this. Part of it comes down to what's actually available to you. Not all of these breeds may be available to you. Like me, if I go into my local Tractor Supply, they're going to have 3-4 different breeds at a time. And they're all going to probably be straight run, which means you don't know what you're getting. 50-50 chance for, all right, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a whole thing on straight run, sexing chickens and stuff like that. Okay, so just a couple quick slides. You can avert your eyes if you want of chicken processing. There's nothing gory here, but this is what it can look like for the home processor. I came across somebody on Facebook who rents out their equipment. This is what you would need if you wanted to. So I put this in here. Why did I put this in here? Because I want you to see overall, if you wanted to get into processing your own birds, you're going to need, like, I want you to see this thermometer here in the sink. There's a heating element. They like kind of like flash boil the chickens to release the feathers, then put the chicken that had its feathers, so you slaughter it, all right, anyway, and then you put it in this, and this is a plucker that spins around, plucks the feathers out. And then could you pluck it by hand? Yes, but all right. And then you got bags for processing. You got these cones that are used for slitting their throats and everything, and then, of course, very sharp knives. And it can become a family event where you have a station that's just going down the line. This over here with that heat source, that's where they're boiling the water. Okay. And so here's the thing is that, all right, we're done with that. If you've been averting your eyes, all right, that's there. But for those who are interested in it, my friend John, he does that every year. Every year he's processing, a round of chickens. And he knows that they lived a good life while they were around. Now, these are the chicks that I got last year. So we're going to update this every year with buff Orpingtons. Love them. Super docile, beautiful tan birds, speckled Sussex. Now, here's the cool thing is that you got these little screenshots where you're getting some prices up at the top. So you can see this is how much they cost per chick. So they are like 2-day-old chicks, and this is how much it costs for them. So the speckled Sussex, love them. The cocoa marron, they lay those dark eggs, and so does the noir marron. And then we got some Brahmas. I have a Brahma rooster and a Brahma hen. The roosters are accidents. We didn't mean to get a rooster, but man, is that a beautiful bird. And they have these like feathers on their feet. Okay, and then a lavender Orpington. I actually regret that I didn't get more of these last year. They're an outstandingly gorgeous bird and docile and friendly and just beautiful birds. And good egg layers. And I only have one, and now the place where I get my Mackies, they're not offering them this year, and I'm like, oh no, we're not gonna. But of course, they're offering a different breed, and we'll try other ones. So, Gold Comet. We did get a Gold Comet, but that one bird last year ended up being a rooster. So right now we have two roosters, and they do get along with each other. Now, again, why? It's because they have a lot of room to exist at opposite ends of the 40-foot run that they have. And so one is always at one end, one is always at the other end. Do they cross paths? Yes, but they don't really bother each other because, again, they're not able to corner each other. So the Golden Comet that we had is now a Golden Comet rooster. The Well Summer has, I will say, this is like the Well Summer and the Lavender Orpington. These are my two like favorite birds for beauty. Just I love the colors that are in them and everything. And then you got your Easter eggers and your olive eggers. Okay, so they have like these little poofy feathers by their, on their cheeks, kind of near where their hair and everything. And they're this neat. Here's the thing: you see the coloring on this. You could get one that's jet black. You could get one that. I'm not saying that you can choose to get one. I mean that you get random colors, plumage from these birds. You don't know what they're going to be for the Easter eggers and the olive eggers. Okay, so again, you got your prices here. Now the Easter eggers tend to be the ones that lay the more bluey, greeny eggs than the olive eggers tend to be more in that greeny olive range. Again, the eggs all taste the same. They all taste the same, but it is kind of cool to like just have like, wow, this one's got speckles on it. This one's green. All right. You're hearing the joy and just like having lots of different types of chickens. So this is what they looked like when we first started putting them out. Okay, sourcing chickens. So you can also get them by mail. That's another thing. But if we get into, let's start with this. So eggs, yes, you can hatch your own. Now that's a road that I've never gone down. Past few years at the high school that I moved at the science, the bio, I think it's one of the bio classes, they hatch their own eggs every year. And then a local farm takes them and everything. And so it's like the teenagers build their own incubators. It's a whole science project. And some of them have horrible success rates and some of them have bad success. Here's the thing though, is that like they're incubators that you can buy and they have a pretty darn good success rate because that's what they're designed to do. So I do have friends who have hatched their own eggs, and I do have customers who have talked about getting eggs, fertilized eggs, bringing them to their chickens and putting it in the nesting box and leaving those eggs there when they have a broody hen, and the hen stays on that little clutch of eggs and hatches them naturally. And the little chicks grow up and everything. And so that's another route that you could go to once you have chickens, of course. Okay, so chicks, most people are going to get chicks. And there are three terms here. You have sex-linked, okay? You have sex-linked, sexed, and straight run. Okay, so let's go straight run. That's the first one. You will see pictures later. Straight run means it's just, you don't know what you're getting. It's 50-50 chance that it's a hen or a rooster, okay, in it when it grows up. That is a gamble. So on my list of chickens, there was one year where I got straight runs, and they were beautiful birds, and we were like, yeah, we're a different breed, and we happened to get 5. It was because it was a local breeder, we got 5 of them, and 4 of them ended up being roosters. So that was a disappointment. Now, being the farmer that I am, we raised them to wait, till they weighed enough. And then my friend John came over and he slaughtered them. And then we had a person who was willing to buy them for $20 a piece. So I got $80 for those chickens. We did the processing of slaughtering them for them, but then they processed the rest of the birds themselves. So okay, straight run. That's my story about straight run. Is the one time I went with straight run, I got 4 out of 5 roosters. Okay, and that's my warning with Tractor Supply. The vast majority of the chickens that they offer are straight run. Okay, because they're getting these from the mills, they're getting them for as cheap as possible, selling them to you for as cheap as possible, and that cheapness means that they're not paying somebody to sex the chickens. So that middle term, sexed, means that somebody, when that chick hatches out, They bring the tray of chicks over, and it's somebody's job to flip it over, check the cloaca, and tell if it's male or female. I've never done this before myself, but there are people who have good eyesight and they know what they're looking for, and they have like a 9 out of 10 success rate for it. So that one golden comet that I got out of the 11, that one that turned into a rooster last year, that fits in with that 1 in 10 kind of ratio of, 1 out of the 11 that we got was a rooster, and so now there's also sex linked. So, oh, by the way, the one thing I said is if you want to like Google this later or on a side tab or whatever, if you know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, that show Dirty Jobs, his season 1, episode 1, he did the dirty job of sexing chickens. And so the very first gross job that they started with was sexing chickens. Okay, anyway, sex linked is it means that you take one breed of hen and another breed of hen, and when you have that rooster and that chicken mate, the chicks that hatch from that are not true to either breed. They are now their own breed, this crossbreed. But when the chicks hatch, they have a marking, or they have plumage, or feather types of feathers. They have a visual sign on them that is different in the males than in the females. So that means that visually their sex is linked, and that one tends to be like 100% accurate with what you get. So if you see sex-linked chicks, it's typically going to be a crossbreed. So it's not going to, but they're still good birds. They're still good birds. And you get this high, what's the word? Reliability that you'll get hens. Okay, now I know this is a lot of time on one slide, but adolescents are called pullets. So if you're on Facebook Marketplace and somebody says, I have pullets, that means that they have future hens. They have females. If they say they have cockerels, well, yeah, cockerel, it's a male. So you can buy adolescent birds. Now, why would you do this? You'd buy them because maybe you don't want to raise chicks, and you don't want to spend that 6 weeks or so of taking care of those chicks in your house and having the little velociraptors smell in the basement or in the garage before you move them out, and they have all their feathers and they're ready to go out to the coop and everything. So it's rare. It's rare, but you can buy adolescents and you can buy adults. The good thing is, again, they are ready to lay those adults, those hens. But one of the downsides is you didn't raise them, and so they don't know you like they would if they were a chick and you raise them. Though when you raise chicks, they bond with you. I'm not going to put human emotion to say they love you or anything, but there's an attachment that happens, and they trust you when you raise those chicks, because you're kind to them. You give them food, you give them water, you take care of them, you handle them all the time. Let's get in there. All right, we got stuff. All right. Now, so if you go down the road of hatching your own, again, you can Amazon this stuff all day long. What's the difference between different styles? So just the quick 101 on incubators is that the more expensive incubators are going to they're going to maintain the temperature, but also, I don't know if you know this, you need to maintain a humidity as well with those eggs. All right, so there's a certain humidity and temperature that needs to be maintained, and you're more likely to have that consistent humidity and temperature with the larger, more expensive ones as well. They will also, look at this, egg turner. They will also turn the egg. Naturally, when an egg is in the nest and everything, and the mama hen is brooding on top of them, she will move, she will shuffle. Those eggs will get twisted and turned around and stay nice and cozy and warm under her for, the big long chunk of time, the weeks that it takes to hatch an egg. And for it to develop, but anyway, so know that that's going to be the difference. The smaller they are, the less eggs they'll hold, and you may have to do some other things. So I'm not going to get into that. Now, one of the libraries I taught at last year, they happened to get a donation from, and I forget the organization, that donated to the library the 6 hatching eggs and the thing and all that, so that people could like see the process happen. And she timed my day of my presentation to when the eggs would hatch. So because it really is, it's to the day when they all hatch, and all of them had hatched except for one, and they were all now in here underneath a little heat zone. Now, this like little zone heating thing, you're going to see what I do for that. I don't have a little thing like this because they get bigger, and yes, this has little legs so it can kind of grow with the chicks, but I do a heat lamp. What you will notice is food and water, and this is about the size of a rabbit cage. That's what I use for mine. So raising chicks, let's get into it. It's fun. This is where like you get the family involved. These are my little kiddos. Okay, so several rounds in and all. And yes, I've got a bag of shavings here. I probably got the feed in a bucket, and this lives in the house. I don't know why it's in the trailer for this picture, but it's definitely spring. Look at that little daffodil that my daughter had just picked. All right, so enough reminiscing. My friend John, these are his Rhode Island Reds, and he borrows a rabbit cage from me. So both of these are rabbit cages. We happen to have an indoor rabbit, and it lives in the cage. And when we're in between rabbits, sometimes we're raising chicks. And now I have a rabbit cage that's just for raising chicks. Anyway, and so you can see he uses straw. That's what he has available to him. And his little Rhode Island Reds. Now, sex linked. Look at how these chicks over here. It's a horrible picture, but it gives you the point. The chicks over here are males. The chicks over here with the little white dot are females. Again, these are probably black sex linked, which tends to be, because they're black, they're black plumage. They tend to be a cross between the black and white striped Plymouth barred rock chickens and the Rhode Island red chickens. Now you don't see any like red in this, but when they grow up, they can have these like blacky, reddy, beautiful feathers, iridescent feathers. And these are gold sex linked chicks. I forget the cross for this. It's just not in my brain. But again, you can see the males over here are lighter in color and the females are darker in color. And so that's just an example of like, I just pulled that off the web or whatever, that sex link. Somebody else is sorting through and pulling out, because everybody wants the females. All right. And so where do the males go? Well, sometimes they get disposed of, and sometimes they get sold really cheap and they are raised for meat. And some of the meat that you're eating in the grocery store, is from roosters. It is. It's meat is meat, all right. Anyway, this is so what do we got here? So this is a little brooder. This is where a customer, when I brought and delivered a Coop, I was like, hey man, I love your brooder. He's like, yeah, I made it. I found some designs, but I kind of winged it on my own. And I was like, I love it. Can I take a picture of it? Here's what I want you to see. We're going to see several different types of brooders and stuff like that in my own. So there's a lot of wood into this. So this is kind of expensive, just in the sense that he used a lot of wood. You can definitely do this with a lot less wood and everything, but you got bedding, you got food and water, you've got air access, clean air top bottom, but not all the way around necessarily. That's kind of cool. All right. And you have a warm side and a cool side. Okay. So this heat lamp, since this is a metal hardware cloth mesh fencing, this heat lamp that gets very hot, and if you put it near the wood, could start a fire in your house, but since it's right here on the metal, that's safe. And that heat lamp creates a warm zone. Over here is a zone where if it's too hot over here, they can escape from it while you are away at work. Okay, so now let's keep going. This is a smaller one. Now this one had an incandescent light bulb, the old-fashioned light bulbs that gave off heat, and this was only for about 3 hens. So there was again, I was delivering a Coop, and I was like, hey, that's an interesting little brooder. It's really small, but can I take a picture of it? And he's like, yeah. So I took a picture of their family's little brooder. The person that they bought the chickens from makes, I don't know if they make these or buy them pre-assembled, and they assemble them. It looks like it's made locally. And I think it's for like $100. They get the brooder, they get the water, and they get the chicks. They get 3 chicks. So it's kind of a whole package deal. That's like out out in Western Connecticut was where that one was. And this is my setup. So feed. So you're going to have these jar feeders where you flip them upside down and the little chicks peck in here. And so this screws down onto that. So these jar feeders, and you have the chick crumble, which is it's chick feed. And you can get medicated chick feed and unmedicated chick feed. And that's a whole like ethical issue, is whether you want antibiotics in your chick feed or not. I never had any issues. And then I've got a waterer that's flipped upside down. You flip it the other way. And so this is a rabbit cage. Why does it have cardboard around? Because those little velociraptors put their feet on those shavings and they throw it all over the place. It's just to keep all those shavings inside. This is how I rig mine up, with a heat lamp attached to like a little kid's chair over here, or sometimes a stool or whatever. I create a warm zone and there's a cool zone. Okay. And there's plenty of open ventilation. There it is when it's on and everything's set up. And over the years, I've made this like little thing where it's like a little perch, and the feed and the water are not in the shavings. They're raised up out, and the shavings get tossed and they fall between the cracks here, blah, blah, blah. It keeps the feed and water clean for maybe a day. All right. And yeah, I let the chicks out. I handle them. Now, are they out all the time in my house? No. This is like in the evening after I'm done teaching at school. I come home and I'm like, all right, let's let the chicks out to kind of like, let's handle each one. And in the beginning, you're reaching in and they don't want to be caught, and you're carefully taking each one out, petting them, getting their own little time with you, and okay, safely put them back, gently, slowly moving. You're building their trust. Okay. So let me just take a quick glance at, yeah. Okay, so we talked about the different types. So you could raise them by eggs, you could get adults, you could get adolescents. Most people get chicks. It is the cheapest way to get chickens, is to raise your own chicks. Well, I mean, you're going to buy all this stuff to raise them and everything. So I don't know if it's necessarily cheaper. Let's not talk about cost. But transitioning chicks outside. Now I say pasture, that means on my lawn, and I'll just read the slide. You can go directly to the coop, but I let my chickens mature adjacent to the coop, to my permanent coop, and in a separate little mini coop, and that develops their skills for foraging. It develops their skills for rooting in the ground and staying together and hearing things outside and looking around and observing before they go in with the other chickens. It reduces the stress of taking those chicks that have lived for about 6 weeks in your house. I want you to hear that number. It's going to take them about 6 weeks for them to get full plumage, real feathers, and no downy feathers. It's worth saying that if you put them outside with downy feathers, what happens is you're putting them into an environment where it gets warm and cold at night. It gets cold at night and damp at night. No matter what type of, how protected they are, they're going to have dampness as cool air comes in and it condenses on them. And if they have downy feathers on them, that down absorbs that water and they will chill and they will die. So you don't want your chicks to die by putting them out too soon, but they start to get really stinky around 4, 5, 6 weeks. So you might find that they're in your living room, but you're like, I need these to go outside. And could you put them in the coop? If you didn't have chickens out there, yes, you could set up a heat lamp and everything in your coop and everything. Just be sure that they don't like fall from a great height. That if they're exploring within that coop or they leave the coop, that they can always get back in. And maybe you have them live their life in that coop buttoned up, so they can't go in and outside at all, so they can't sneak through the fence gaps, and they live their life in that coop. So blah blah blah. All right, so I also keep them on pasture because it keeps them protected. And so this is what it looks like. What do I mean? So I used to have this chicken ark that I built. I bought the plans online, built this chicken ark that you would tow around the yard and move to new little spots. And it had a spot for feed and it had a spot for water. It had a little trap door that like went down to let the chickens out from the roost that was up top. It was an A-frame. That's all it was an A-frame. I loved it. I eventually did sell it because I found somebody who would buy it for me before it rotted and it wasn't worth anything. And now I use something smaller. But this was that A-frame thing. Now I build things that look like this. This was a prototype that I built for my friend John for his rabbits and everything. And so it's, again, uses a small amount of plywood and stuff. And this is where they spend the night, in this like little zone, but there's a little door where they can go in and out into this very protected. Look at this, how protected that is. And now we've modified this end door, but that was the first one. This is what the newer version looks like. So it has this like little triangular thing, a little thing that slides back and forth. And I want you to notice all the layers of, like, wire here. I use regular fencing, 2-inch by 4-inch welded wire fencing, and I use these like little clips or zip ties to hold it together. So if you were going to build one on your own, I'm telling you how you could build one on your own. All right, and so zip tied to that is chicken wire. You'll hear me talk about how chicken wire will take the camera off on me in a little bit when we talk about wires, but chicken wire is good to stop these chicks from going in and out, but it's not good enough to protect your chickens from predators. So that's why you do a layer of chicken wire over something that's very sturdy, and you'll see little black zip ties here. Okay, so the chicks live outside on the grass, and every day I pick this thing up, I turn it to a new spot of grass, and they live outside, and they also get set free in the evening, because in the evening they will naturally want to go back in. As the sun sets, they will naturally want to go back, and so will the other chickens naturally want to go back here. And sometimes you get some of these little chicks that actually follow the big birds in, and you're like, okay, you've just transitioned yourself. However, how long do I do this? It's for another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know. I think it's a couple weeks that I do this. Usually I get fed up from dealing with 2 coops, and I just go, all right, enough's enough. You're familiar, get in, and they do well. Do you have to do all this? Well, it's not necessary, but these chicks are smaller than the hens, and they will get picked on. They could get picked on so much that a hen or a rooster kills them. So that's why I transition them, so that they're socialized and they are used to each other. Nobody's seen as a threat. And this is another thing. I modified the little door here so it folds down. They can come in and out. We can feed them and keep handling them. Okay, beautiful, beautiful chickens in the spring. My gosh. Okay, so this is somebody else's setup. Well, I forget when I took this picture. I think it was last year. A customer had bought a coop from me long time ago, more than 5 years ago, and this part of the run, and wanted an addition onto the run. So I was there to add the addition on. And so yeah, everything's decorated. That's nice. And she added some hardware cloth onto the run. That's great. But look at this. This is what she uses to get her chicks outside, and she lets her hens come out of this and walk around and everything while these little chicks stay in here. Now, so this little dog thing, she has her own, what is it? Australian Shepherds that are running around like Aussies do. And they're running around giving me balls and things to throw, and I'm like, no, I gotta build. Stop it. Stop giving me balls here. But anyway, those dogs, I mention it because they're running around, they're socialized with the birds, they are not bothering the birds, but their presence means that she can kind of keep this whole setup outside all day long, and predators aren't going to come in while those dogs are there. Birds of prey, anything. And so even though this is those like little pop-up kennels, pop-up outdoor kennels, that's what it is. And you see that she is in the dappled sunlight here of some trees and everything, but she also has this umbrella that she puts up, and she said it's not for shade, it's actually for the rainy days, so that they can have a spot where they can get out of the rain. They're fine. Anyway, transitioning chicks is an important part of the process. It's still part of the joy of getting now it may be a second year skill that you have to do, or a third year skill, or a fourth year skill, because that idea of transitioning the chicks is something that you do once you have an established flock and you don't need to get your new chicks to merge with the old ones. I never really taught this before, but I've worked it into this class because it's such an important thing that eventually people are going to have to figure out how to do. Okay, Housing chickens permanently. So yes, free ranging results in losses. I know that from my own experience. So I focus, I don't teach you how to free range chickens. That's your own thing if you want to research that. But I do teach you, what's a good permanent structure look like. Focus on permanent structures that's going to stay in one zone. So we're not talking about chicken tractors. We're not talking about electro-netted fences that get moved around and everything. All of those are advanced level chicken keeping things that is not this course, not this class. So you do need a coop and a run. So you want to think about where you place it in the yard. Where does water flow? Are you going to accidentally put it in a spot that with these huge rainstorms we got would actually like flood and become an issue? Are you going to have manure from the coop flow from the coop into a neighbor's yard and make somebody upset? Or is it going to flow somewhere in your yard? Look at where gravity would take things. Look at avoiding placing it near animal trails and stuff like that that are existing, and keeping it close to the house, but not too close to the house. So there's a lot of things of placement. I like to put, I like to suggest that people put it in a spot that's generally sunny for those winter months, but like also has the option for shady trees. The good thing is we have a lot of deciduous forests around here, and if you plant it near a tree line, that's a good bet that it's going to be shady, but it'll also be sunny in the winter. Okay, build or buy, that's your own personal preference. But we will talk about, if you're going to buy a coop, what to look for. And I'm not saying that you got to buy my coops, but I don't want you to buy something that is, again, I have helped people replace the Tractor Supply coops that collapsed in the snow. They're cheap. All right, so you'll need something that's sturdy and a secure run. So here's my philosophy on the run. If you make the run, not like Fort Knox, but if you make the run nice and secure and you're using good fencing and netting and everything, and you're paying attention to details, then you don't need a door that opens from the run to the coop, to the run to the coop. You don't need to open and close anything. Your chickens can wake up whenever they want to wake up, go outside, do what they do, and they can put themselves to bed without you opening and closing doors, because your run is secure and you will reduce losses. So if nothing can get into the run, then it's not going to get from the run into the coop. All right. All right. And you are going to need to balance the needs of the hens and the needs of the humans. So what that means is maybe raising the coop up. You'll see that all the coops that I build are 2 feet off the ground to actually make it easier on us bending over, and it uses less building materials when you raise it up off the ground, because the chickens needs, they don't need a big tall roof or anything. We need a door that we can get into. So if you bring that door up off the ground, you can have a 3-foot door that you can get the majority of your body into the coop. All right. Yeah, and possibly shade structures. Let's keep going. All right. So housing chickens. Yes, you can find plans online and everything, free plans and everything. Not all of them are good. That's my point with that picture. You can buy pre-made stuff. This was Pine Creek Structure in Plainville, Connecticut. So I was delivering a coop to a farm that had over 100 chickens, and the coop that I was delivering to them was specifically for their injured birds, so that they were removing the birds from the hundreds of birds that they had in their rescue farm. Man, they had donkeys and horses and bunnies and everything. It was a rescue farm. They had so many animals. And anyway, what you're going to see, these next 2 coops are from their large area that they have. This is their other coop. So I want you to see, these are like sheds in themselves. So this is a shed. It's probably like what, 20 some odd feet. You can do the math with the posts that are here. But this is a shed that they bought and they brought in, and it's all open. Notice how the feeders are hanging to keep the rats, to deter rats from getting there, but the chickens can still access it. Notice the rail that's going around the edge. That's the roosts for them. They don't have roosts up in the rafters. The chickens hop up here and they roost for the night. Gets them off the ground. That's something that they naturally want to do. And these are my kids on the delivery with me. Again, a coop is a messy place filled with manure. All right, look at my kids in their muck boots. All right, that's what you're going to be wearing. And here's the thing, nobody wants to go in a chicken coop. You go in a chicken coop because you have to. And if you got 100 birds, you have to go in the coop because you have something that's that big. If you have 6 birds, you never have to go in it physically, like your whole body. You can clean it out with a rake and stuff like that. So coops like this, great, like great idea, but I don't like this idea. It looks neat, kind of like made with like pallety type of wood and everything, and it probably serves them well. But I look at this plastic here and I'm like, man, these chickens are going to peck the heck out of this plastic. It probably sheds the snow pretty well, but it also might get too hot. So there's a lot of neat ideas that are out there, and just kind of be careful. Don't do this. This was a coop that this was basically, I built the coop for this customer. They were supposed to pay me. They never paid me. And when I came to deliver the coop, I saw this was what they had. And just imagine snow on top of this. This would just collapse. And all of the bedding, this was like really about a foot thick of bedding here that they hadn't cleaned up. And they had a mixed bird of ducks and chickens. Ducks are super messy. This is not a duck keeping class, because that I would say is advanced fowl keeping. Ducks, they are basic, but mixing the two, ducks are super messy, and they will get everything wet and muddy and mucky because that's what they like. They're ducks. Anyway, don't do this. It's like, how do you even get into this? How do you maintain this? It's a mess. So they ended up not paying for the coop, and I didn't bother hunting them down for it. Don't get a coop like this. Don't get your Wayfair coops. Don't get your Amazon coops. Don't get your Tractor Supply coops. These are prefab little things that are made light. And so the price can be great on these things, but these are made with thin boards, light wood material, light metal materials. The metal will rust in no time. The roofing materials will flake apart. This is the type of coop that broke in the winter when we had a snowy ice storm, and the weight of the snow collapsed the person's coop, and it wasn't even that old. Remember, your chickens are going to live for years. They need something that's going to live for years with them. If you can't afford a coop that's more than this money, and you can't build one on your own, then you don't get chickens. That's not a fair thing to do for your chickens. Another thing that I will say with these is that when you look at this, a coop this size, they will overrate the coops for this and say that 6 chickens can fit in it. And what they tend to be talking about is these smallest types of chickens, the dwarfs, bantam chickens, which none of my chickens are bantam chickens. We didn't even talk about that word, but if you see that word bantam, it means that they lay smaller eggs, and the chickens are literally smaller themselves. And yes, maybe 6 bantams could live in here, but even 6 bantams in here is like super tight. And you have a nest box. If it's snowy, like, and everything, they might not even be able to live underneath this space, and they'd be spending their entire life cooped up in here. Okay, it's not fair. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's so many different reasons. And again, another one, great price. Don't do it. Cheap, thin materials. Why is it cheap and thin materials? Because it has to be lightweight to ship it. They are reducing their weight because they basically have to ship. They can't ship anything over 150 pounds. So they got to make sure that all of this metal and everything weighs like less than 150 pounds when it gets to you. Otherwise, it's like they're going to pay out the wazoo for shipping costs. Okay, so this is what my setup looks like. Okay, yeah, as the person teaching this class, I'll say it's an ideal setup. All right, so we've got a big 15-foot by 40-foot fenced-in area. I think that, this might even be a little more than 15. It might be a little more than 40, but that's my ballpark. I want you to see there are cedar posts going around, but here, the fence line here is actually a temporary fence that I take down every now and then, and I let the chickens have full access to the garden that's adjacent to where they live. So some winters, it's not every winter, I let them root around in here and really give the garden a good tilling and a turning up. Okay, and this was taken during a time when the fencing for the garden was down, but you get the idea. What I do want you also to see is that you'll never have grass growing once you put your run here. The chickens will see to it that grass never grows here again. So don't try to plant things for them. It's not gonna happen. But yeah, so the coop is here attached to the run. Chickens can go in and out freely. There's my access is all the way down here. This gate, this handmade gate. There's my workshop. There's my house. Yeah, and everything. So shade structures. Okay, access to the garden and everything. Access to the garden and everything. I no longer have the raised beds, but I do love these pictures of the chickens in the garden. Okay, so this is a warning picture. Okay. I planted morning glories against my fence line, and then we got a windstorm, and I propped up the fence line. I stopped it from falling in, but it wasn't enough. We got rain, we got wind, and the whole thing, when I came home one day after work, had collapsed. Now, it didn't hurt any chickens, but chickens hopped on out, and you know what? They got close to the tree line over here. And you know what got them? It was a hawk. A hawk was, when I came home, a hawk was eating out one of my chickens. And yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess. It was the only time a hawk ever got my chickens, because hawks are not a problem for me because of how far away that tree line was, but because the chicken was able to get to that tree line, the hawk had an easy meal. Okay, so don't plant things on your fence that your fence can't handle. Okay, I do have grapevines on the other side, but it's a very sturdy side of the fence. Okay, size comparison. So you got one of these cheapy coops. This is one that I build. It's not an advertisement, but it's just a size comparison. So this size coop, this size run, this is 8 feet plus another 6 feet, and this is 4 feet wide versus what this was. These chickens definitely free range around the whole thing, but this was a better setup for those chickens. Again, you got your people access. Now, what you're going to see now, I'm going to go faster. You can come back in the presentation and look at things. You're going to see lots of different coops that I've built and put in places. What you're going to see is metal roofs on many of them. A metal roof on a run is unnecessary. I try to talk customers out of putting a metal roof on a run. For, well, one, cost reasons. It's expensive, but some people want it. They want the look, they want the rain-free area, they want the shade. Okay, I get it. However, the big reason I say don't do it is because that becomes a sail. We get a hurricane force wind. This roof is a sail that's just going to take the whole thing with it. And there's so many people who build flat roofs, flat run roofs that are even more sail-like. Wind will get right under it and tear the whole thing apart. And then what are you going to do? I'd say it's best just to let the rain, everything, clean out the run and just leave it open. Have some netting over the top or fencing over the top. Okay, anyway. Again, lots of different ways that you can orient things. These are, again, lots of different ways that you can do egg boxes, nest boxes, and sizes. The wheels on these things are just to deliver them, but they stay stationary and the wheels pop off once I deliver them. On the inside, you'll see roosts up here. So just a couple straight boards for roosts, a couple cross boards for roosts, a little tiny ladder for them to get up. All right, and then of course the roof goes on. No windows on this. You got a door here, a people door here, and a people door here. You've got a chicken door here. That chicken door has enough light that lets in. Now, and the roof is a metal roof. And when that metal roof is on, this edge down here lets air in, and this ridge line up here lets air out. Fresh air comes in at the bottom. Dry and fresh air comes in at the bottom, because I tell the customers, and don't even put the little door on, rip it off and let fresh air come in and out of the base layer. That dries out the poop that is in the shavings and makes it so that your floor doesn't rot out. Okay, so that idea of making a secure run means that you can leave this little door open all the time. Yeah, you got a little ladder for it. Okay, for them to go in and out, but it also means that your floor is going to last longer. So, and you have a secure roof in the coop, and the chicken can go in and out. I'm a big proponent of metal roofs because they add natural ventilation. I don't even put plywood down. I screw the metal right onto these rafter boards. And so I'm putting a lot of pictures here just so that you can get ideas of different things that you can do that are pretty economical. Remember that I work with 4 foot and 8 foot dimensions, or 4 foot and 6 foot dimensions, but everything's a little shy of 4 feet, so that again, as you're adding one layer onto the edge of something, you don't go beyond that. You get that efficiency of working with the 8-foot lumber that you're cutting in half to 4 feet, and you don't have to go 4 foot and 1 inch or 8 foot and 1 inch, and then have to buy a 10 or 12 foot board because you want that 1 inch over. Make everything slightly smaller than what you need it. This is what I do for framing runs and everything. Okay, so I do full 2x4s, pressure treated 2x4s, the inside. So nesting boxes, you're going to see people say that you need one nesting box for every 3 hens that you have, or something like that. No, it's false. If you have a system where you have hundreds of thousands of chickens, yes, you need a nesting box for every 3 or 4 hens, because they are stressed out and they have no place to lay unless you give them lots of places to lay. Otherwise, they're going to lay on the ground, lay their eggs on the ground, and those eggs are going to get cracked. The backyard chicken keeper can keep just 1 or 2 nesting boxes, and you will find that they will find one that they like, and they all lay eggs in that one nesting box. Why? Because what they like to do is create a clutch. Now, this is off the floor. This is a nesting platform that you just fill with shavings and everything like that, and they lay their eggs here. They, again, take a little ladder up, and they're on the roost, and then they're shaping here. And look at that fresh air that's coming in through that bottom part of the roof in the winter. That's no problem. It's not going to kill them to have that fresh air come in. They are hardy animals, especially the breeds that are sold locally around here. They're selected for their hardiness. But anyway, shavings or straw is put on this nesting platform with a little lip here and here to kind of keep it in. And chickens like to create a clutch of eggs. The chicken's only going to lay 1 egg a day, but her sister hens are going to also lay an egg next to that egg, and next to that egg, and next to that egg, and they will create a little clutch that they will want to lay. But you'll come along, you'll take that clutch away, and the next day they will rebuild that clutch of eggs. My point is that with many, many hens, with the backyard chicken keeper, you don't need lots of nesting boxes. And it doesn't even have to be a real box in itself. Okay, so I have pictures here of just lots of different coop ideas that you could do. These are all different things that I've built in the past. This is a chicken tractor, one that is actually portable and on the wheels and can move from space to space. Again, that's not a permanent solution necessarily, because you're releasing the chickens every day. You're going to lose them. This one has a added ventilation. The customer wanted extra, so yeah, we built in some extra ventilation for them. It also ends up being an extra light source in them, so it's another idea. And yeah, okay, this is 6 feet high now, so we need multiple sets of ladders, and these ladders are screwed right in so that they don't fall. And you got nesting boxes and all that. I'm going to skip that story, skip this story. These are other ideas. So what you'll see here is, again, these are ideas from online. I don't think they necessarily work, but reusing a swing set, that's kind of a neat idea. But this is just for them to have a protected area. You notice there's no coop for here. Okay, there's no protection. So it's a good idea, but it looks like it's just to keep them protected during the day. As a little portable run kind of thing. This one has a little protection thing, but this is like a 3-season shelter. There's a lot of airflow in here. They are feeding them and keeping them in there, and it protects them from the rain. But this isn't going to be good enough for winter. You need to stop airflow, or else they'll chill in winter. And chicken tunnels like this. This is a neat idea. I was highly skeptical of it, but then we got a picture of my friend. Oh, there's my friend John. This is his coop setup. Little 4-foot high run, and his Rhode Island Reds going in and out. And what he did was he did install a little chicken run. Let's get there. There's his little chicken run. And what did he do? He put it along a fence line, because he was sick of weed whacking this fence. And he said, well, if I put the chicken run here, the chickens can go in there, that chicken tunnel, and they can go from one end to the other end and be protected from his terrier. And they can also keep the brush line clean. And it's actually been working for him. So it's not their full run. Remember, they have a full-size run, but then they also have access, a little cutout where they can go into this little chicken tunnel to keep his area open. So we are getting towards the end. So we're looking at roughly 8:30-ish to finish. But there's time for questions. in ending this, there's also the addition of like rat traps and stuff like that. I did kind of already talk about this, but if you're doing traps, this is a neat little thing I came up with because I didn't like to handle the rats. So I had the little rat trap. I put a little piece of granola bar in here, and these I can just step on to open it with my foot. And then I screwed it to this board. And then that way I can place them and pick them up and release the rat once it's caught without ever touching the rat, because I just step on it on this and it opens and lets the rat out, the dead rat. But anyway, yeah, rats became a problem, even though my feed is in a container. And I even had double buckets here where every night I was taking the feed out of here, putting it in here. I was taking the whole feeder out, putting it in a garbage can. The rats couldn't get it, but there was enough residual stuff here that the rats were like feeding on, and just creating a colony in the middle of the winter and everything. So this was after the rat problem that I took this set of pictures just to show, if you didn't want to use poisons and you wanted to attempt to kill them and everything with just traps, snap traps, rats follow edges at night. And notice how this is placed up against the edge of the block. The rat is not going to walk around it. It's going to walk along here and then go around the block and then snap. And then I would put, I'd put them at these edges. So screwed. See how I step on it and I don't have to touch them. I'll be honest. I went with this, forget this summer. I thought I was done with rats from last winter, and they I think they were not done. I don't think I had new ones move in. I think I just didn't get the last of them, and they started rebreeding again. And I did finally do a bait station, and I looked at different types of baits that were out there and everything. And I didn't buy the bait that was supposed to go in the station. Why do you buy a bait station? So it's so that the rat goes in, but your dog doesn't. Okay, the rat goes in, but like the birds don't. The birds don't pick up the feed or other things. Mice might go in. A lot of these rat baits are poisons that are flavored with fish and fish oils and stuff like that. So they are attractive. They really eat. They gather all of the food and they bring it back to their den and everything. And so I noticed that my signs of rats went away after about a week. And then what I did was my coop, you see how the dirt here is all piled up? That's because they had made a nest under it. I took a jack and I jacked up the whole coop and I dug it out. And you know what I found was I found the rat nest, and I found all the rats huddled in there, dead together. They had all eaten the poison, and in one fell swoop, I was able to take care of the rat problem. I never wanted to resort to poison because I didn't want my kids to get it. I didn't want it to be in my garden. I didn't want it to be in the chickens and have the chickens get it. It really was a last resort for me, out of frustration and out of feeling like I wasn't doing my job to like keep this safe for, rats, pest, disease, all that jazz. Anyway, so that's my story with that. Feeders and waterers, there are so many. I took this picture today. What do you need for waterers? You need a heated waterer option because you are in New England and we have waterers that freeze. So I used to have the plastic one. Eventually it broke because it's plastic. I have a heated base, and that heated base has been with me for like 10 years and still going. Okay. And I wonder if I got a picture back with the coop. Right there. I do have electric running out to the coop that, I was handy enough to run that myself. I drill a little hole in here and the cord comes out the hole, plugs in there. And then the chickens aren't pecking at this and their dander isn't getting in that socket or anything like that. So the heater is inside on top of a cinder block. That electric heater is on top of a cinder block in the winter right now. Should have taken a picture of it. And a metal waterer is on top of it because metal conducts heat very well. You may see people put a plastic water on top of these bases, but like this right here, it's not efficient. It's not an efficient transfer of heat. And on the super cold days, it will not keep this thawed. Okay, so you're going to have to bite the bullet. And I do suggest a metal water and a metal heater. There are so many other types of waters, like these like little little nubbins that I forget what they're called, where you can kind of make your own water out of buckets and everything. It's like, but in the long run, you need to keep it warm. Oh, did I not? Oh, I don't think the other picture showed up. Okay. The other thing is metal feeders. I use feeders that are metal as well. They look about the same. All right. Okay. So this is my checklist to make sure that in all the things I talked about, did I talk about I did. Yeah. So one thing about ventilation I think to add is that ventilation becomes important in the summer and in the winter. So in the heat of the summer, when their manure is inside the coop and it's festering and everything, it releases noxious gases all the time. And you need that ventilation to keep those gases and keep your birds healthy, keep the gases out. You also need ventilation to let hot air out on those really hot days. That's why I like a peaked roof, not a flat roof, because the peak gives the heat a place to go to. Yeah, here I'm gonna end. I think a lot of this is text, so I'm gonna switch to my face for this rest of this part. But I'm gonna keep going back to that. Yeah, there we go. To this presentation for myself. Okay, so ventilation, yes. Roof run, no roof. So I've already talked about how like I don't necessarily like putting roofs on runs, but I do like the idea of putting fencing or netting over the top to keep hawks out. Snow load. Think about what if we had one of those big storms and we have a foot of snow on top of your coop, on top of your run. What if we have an ice storm? I'll be honest, my run always needs to be repaired after an ice storm. It's not ice proof. So, but I know that, and I keep extra materials on hand, zip ties, fencing, and and screws. Zip ties are my friend, and netting. I keep all of that stuff on hand so that I can mend fences whenever I need to. So will your stuff be able to handle the wind, the sun, the shade? Okay, there we go. All right. One level of roosts. You do not need to make roosts in multiple levels. What actually that does is it creates a behavior of competition where the chickens fight for who's on the top roost. And some chickens get thrown off at night as they fight for that top roost. They can get injured. So having a step of roosts is actually a poor practice. Having one level up at the top of your coop where there's a grid of roosts is the way to go. Keeping feed and water clean. I think we talked about at least like the idea of, yeah, you got to give them clean water and clean feed. I check on it and top it off almost every day, every other day, and get the eggs every day. Definitely variety of feeders and waters. Yeah. Okay, done with that slide. That's good. Just checking a typical day. Typical day is like in the beginning, I would say it's worth checking on them in the morning and checking on them in the evening. I'm at the point where I know my coop is good enough and secure where I only do an evening check on them, and I do the water and top off the feed, and I gather the eggs, and I just look around and see is anything off track. Actually, today one of the chickens flew the coop. She hopped the fence because she's a young bird and she's thin and not heavy. And she used her flight feathers and hopped up on the fence and hopped out in one of the low areas. And Hugo got off the bus and goes, Dad, a chicken's out. And so we went out, we got her back in. It's fine. It's all fine. That's again because I choose not to put netting over the top of my my run and everything. We talked. I think another thing is to talk about molting. Just know that molting is a thing. They will get their feathers, and typically after the first year of them laying eggs and everything, the following fall. So after they're a year old, their second fall maybe, because they're probably getting chickens in the spring. Their second fall, they will typically molt, which means they lose their feathers and they regrow new ones, and they won't lay eggs during that time. They also in the winter will stop laying eggs in the middle of winter just because of the low light. They are sensitive to the amount of light that's in the air, the daylight that they have. As we get fewer daylight hours, they lay they stop laying. They stop laying in the middle of winter. My chickens, just in the past couple weeks, have started to lay eggs again as we have come out of the winter solstice, and we're now starting to get more sunlight. And so we're getting about, out of those 18 birds, remember 11 of them are new and should be, well, 11, one of them is a rooster. 10 of them are new hens that should be laying 1 egg a day. We should be getting 10 eggs from each of them, and a sporadic egg from the older hens that are 3, 4, 6 years old. You know, I don't really count that they're really laying any eggs anymore, those older birds. Once they get past like 3 years old, it's really sporadic as to whether they're laying or not. But anyway, we should be getting 1 egg a day, and now we've been getting like 2 or 3. Today I went out and I was like, oh my god, there's actually 6 eggs today. That's half a dozen. You just start doing the math on that. Half a dozen eggs a day, half a dozen eggs a day, half a dozen eggs a day. You're gonna start making some friends. Okay, some hacks here. Okay, so chicken wire looks like this. This is welded wire. Okay, so different things. This is a hardware cloth. So hardware cloth tends to be expensive per the foot. Chicken wire is pretty inexpensive. Now, I suggest that you make your whole run. There are chicken groups where people will talk about making their whole run and everything out of hardware cloth. You know what? This is thin metal that over time will rust faster than regular fencing. This doesn't last as long, even though it's galvanized and everything like that. It doesn't last as long. And you don't make your whole run out of this if you're looking in the long term. Plus, it's more expensive to do the whole run out of this. You use this in strategic places where either you want to stop hens from going in and out, or you want to stop pests, your predators from coming in. They are drawn to the coop area. Putting this in small areas along the perimeter, but only where within the 10 feet of where your run meets your coop. That's where the scent is the strongest and predators are drawn to. They don't back up and go, well, 12 feet over here is where the access is better. They don't do that. All right. They come and they dig right by the coop. So this is that 2-inch by 4-inch welded wire fencing. Comes in 4-foot height, 6-foot height, 7-foot heights, 8, and I don't think 8-foot heights, but comes in pretty high sections. All right. This zip tied or really attached to posts is the base layer of what I use. However, I've now gone to the super heavy duty cattle panels. I love these. They come in 18-foot sections. You cut them with bolt cutters. And what I do is I use this with this zip tied to it. And it's like Fort Knox. Chickens ain't getting in and out. Predators aren't getting in and out because this welded wire takes a long time to rust, like 10, 15 years before you start getting rust separations and stuff like that. You have this attached to that strong, sturdy base, and nothing's getting in. So again, it's like, I just want you to hear different things that are out there. You can totally get away with this fencing. Now that I know my coop is going to be around for a long, long, long time, we're going to have chickens for another decade or so. I'm switching to cattle panels with this on top, and in a and netting. We really are at the end here, folks, but netting. This is just a simple, simple thin gauge netting. You can find deer netting, you can find bird netting for like berry bushes and stuff like that. I like to buy, I think it's like a deer netting. This is the deer netting. That it's flimsy stuff, but zip ties are my friend, and I use this to put over stuff. Zip tie, and it all buttons together, and does a good job protecting against birds of prey. They see this. They're not going to get tangled up in the netting. They have better eyes than we do, and they can see this if they're hunting, and they don't fly into nets. But anyway, I think it comes in like $15 for a 7-foot by 100-foot thing of deer netting. Yeah. All right, we're right there. Could be question time, or it could be time to go.
I'm going to just unrecord us, stop recording, and then see if there are questions.